So I don't know if you've ever had this experience where you, have you ever seen someone genuinely like a photo of themselves? Where like you have this, here's someone you like, someone you love, and you're like, oh, I like this photo of you. And they're like, oh yeah, me too. It's so refreshing. There's a joy there, especially when you really like that person, when you really love them, because I think so often we're critical. Someone's like, I like this photo of you. Like, oh, I don't like this or that. This is my mom. My mom, she did not like a photo of herself. So actually at one point, my sisters had said, years ago, they said, actually, mom loves this photo of herself. And she said that when she dies, this is even before she got sick, when she dies, she wants this photo on her, like our funeral card. And it was, I remember they even framed it and it was out in public and she didn't mind. It was one of those situations where I loved the fact, but I'm like, that's crazy. My mom was beautiful. There were hundreds and hundreds of photos of her being beautiful. Like, I never knew. I should have asked, what was it about this photo that she liked so much? And you might say, like, you know what? Because I look good in this light. That's what that's what we do, right? Like, I look good in this light. This light makes me look tanner. This light, erases these wrinkles. This light, whatever the light does. And I think a lot of us have that, right? When we have a photo of ourselves, or just even seeing ourselves, we're self-conscious, and so we certain photos in a certain light. It de-emphasizes the things we don't like about ourselves, or a certain light kind of emphasizes the things we do like about ourselves. And so I think we like to be seen in a good light. That's the kind of the idea, right? Is to be seen in a good light means you don't see what I don't want you to see, and you see the things I do want you to see. And I think that's true about our lives as well, right? We just want to be seen in a good light. And there's nothing intrinsically wrong with this. I mean, and in fact, when we choose to do that for someone else, we choose to see someone in a good light, what that means is, right, we choose to acknowledge the best in the other person. Again, nothing wrong with wanting to be seen in a good light. But there's a question that comes up a couple times every year that we're having an icebreaker, or we're having kind of a deeper discussion with some of the students, and I'll ask this, and it's a question that goes like this. Basically, it's very simple. It's a would you rather question. And the would you rather question is this: would you rather be admired or loved? Would you rather be admired or loved? And both are good, right? It's good to be admired, it's good to be loved. Both are nice, but one is better. I think sometimes we prefer to be admired because it's safe. We're admired when people see the good things in us that we'd like to be there, and they don't really know, or they don't really see the things we don't like are there. But to be loved is risky. Again, admired is, I let you see what I want you to see. I let you know about me what I want you to know. But in order to be loved, I actually have to be seen. Realize, right, to be loved, I have to be known. In fact, we'll say it like this: I can only be loved to the degree that I'm truly known. And we're made for love. We're not made to be admired. We're made by God, right, who is love. And we're made for love. We're commanded to love. It seems like everything in the Christian life, everything in life comes down to love. And yet, here's this thing in our hearts: I want to be seen in a good light. It's not bad. It's only bad when I want to be seen in a good light at the cost of being seen in the light. The first reading is from the prophet Malachi. And in it, the first line he says, the day is coming, right? The day of the Lord is coming, like a blazing oven. Basically that this is the end of the church year. And we have Christ the King next weekend. And always at the end of the church year, the church is inviting us to consider the end of time and consider what is it when the story will be over? What will happen when Jesus will come back? What happens when the day of the Lord arrives? And on that day, we see the Son of Justice. That's what, as Malachi says, the Son of Justice arises. When on that day, we have to stand in the light. What will we do when that day comes, when that day arrives? Will we be willing to stand in the light? In John chapter 3, John 3:16 is one of the most powerful, or most popular Bible verses where Jesus says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that all those who believe in him might not perish, but might have eternal life." Right? This whole thing is about love. God so loved the world, he gave his only Son. But then he goes on to say, he says, this is the verdict: light came into the world. Here's Jesus. He is the light of the world. This is the verdict: light came into the world. And then Jesus says, but people preferred darkness to light. so that their evil works were not exposed. That's us. Malachi, the day of the Lord is coming. The light of God is coming. The Son of Justice is coming. Jesus, the light of the world is here. God's love is here, but people prefer darkness. And I wonder if that reality is one of the reasons why Jesus has such harsh words for hypocrites throughout the Gospels. Not today in the Gospel today, but in other Gospel stories, Jesus, he just goes after the hypocrites. So you probably know this already. The word hypocrite in Greek actually means the word actor, or maybe more accurately, the word pretender. And what's a pretender? What's an actor? What's a hypocrite? That's someone who is preoccupied with being seen in a good light. Someone who actually prefers to have a good reputation over a good character. You know, the difference between reputation and character is reputation is what people think is true of me, and character is what is actually true of me. If I'm going to be a hypocrite, what it means is I want you to think something of me is true that I'm not willing to actually choose. That I'm not always willing to be what I want to appear to be. Why? Because I want to be seen in a good light. And I'm not always willing to be seen in the light. I'm not always willing to choose to have that character or that integrity. I heard a person being described this way, and it was a friend. And he worked with this man, and he was describing him as a man of character, a man of integrity. And he said this, I love the description. He said, oh yeah, that guy, his video matches his audio. I thought that is so cool. To be able to have that said of you, your video matches your audio. What you do, how you live is actually what you claim to be, how you claim to live. Now, of course, having integrity, having a good character, that's not perfection. There's a difference between being a hypocrite and being human. Actually trying to live in the light, but failing, that's just being weak. That's just being human. Being a hypocrite is, I want you to think something is true of me that I'm not even willing to try to make true. And the day will come, and the day is coming, when all will be known. The day is coming when all those inconsistencies, where our audio doesn't match our video doesn't match our audio, that will be exposed, and we won't be seen in a good light. We will be seen in the light. And sometimes that happens now. Sometimes in our speech, sometimes in how we look. A little while ago, or actually numerous times, Jeff Caven's a great guy. We had one of those things where we were both mic'd up. We were going to give a talk or going to record something. And it was one of those moments where, one of us had to go to the bathroom, and it was like, hey, make sure you turn your microphone off. And so he told the story about a Catholic speaker who was at a parish for a parish mission. And this place was packed. This massive church, shoulder to shoulder in the pews, standing room only. They set out chairs, massive church, massively packed. And the speaker was back in the sacristy, and he was mic'd up, and he didn't know his microphone was on. And at one point, he just was going off about the priest, the pastor there. And he's like, yeah, this pastor, I don't know. He seems like he doesn't even care. He doesn't even know the Lord. Doesn't even seem to love the Lord. The man just seems like an empty shell. He was going on about this priest, the pastor of this parish, for a while. And then finally someone from the crowd, from the congregation, ran into the sacristy and was like, your microphone's on. And in that moment, the man realized, oh no. What I meant to be known by only one other person here in the sacristy was broadcast to everyone in this church. And he had to go out and then give a talk on whatever, mercy or forgiveness or having integrity. Looking at people who know the whole time, oh, your video doesn't match your audio. That he revealed who he was, what was true, not just who he was, he revealed what was true about his heart even when no one was listening. You know what's really interesting is often as Jeff has told me that story, he's never even come close to giving a hint as to who that person was. Which I think goes a lot to his character. Now, I told that to someone and they were like, it was probably him. And I was like, that would never be Jeff. Jeff would never, ever do that. He knows how to use microphones too well. Just kidding again. But there's that thing of what happens when there's something in my heart that other people discover. I say something and now that what's true about me has just been revealed. Not too long ago, I was down at a coffee shop here in Duluth, and I was doing my stuff, doing some work, and sitting at this one table, and this family of four came in. A dad, his wife, their older son, he was in his early 20s maybe, and then a young daughter. The daughter might have been 5, 6 years old. And I just kind of looked up because at one point, like the daughter was just like, she loved her big brother, and it was very clear that she just loved him, and he was playing with her and whatnot. And so they sat down at these three chairs that were kind of like lounge chairs right in front of me. And the brother was there, and the little girl was on her mom's lap, and then the dad was facing away from them, facing towards them, away from me. And I just looked up, glanced to see them all chit-chatting and stuff. And he pulled out his phone as he's talking to his 20-year-old son and his wife and his little girl, and I could see from where I was what was on his phone. And there were a number of images that were inappropriate. He would not have wanted to flip his phone towards his wife, towards his little girl, or towards his 20-year-old son. But he's just talking to them as if everything was normal. And I wasn't trying to creep on him, but it was one of those moments of like, oh, wow, here is this man. And what is on his heart is on his phone right now. And there's something that's revealed about his heart that was revealed when he thought no one was looking. Now, of course, some of that is all of us at some point, or at some time in some ways. I'm sure that speaker was also very noble. I'm sure that speaker was also very committed to the Lord. I'm sure that dad, hopefully that dad was also a very, very good dad. And this was just that those things are true, but also I'm sure that that's true, but also the dark parts are also true. This is the reality. The dark parts were actually there, and that's all of our hearts. We choose good, and that's what we want to be seen in a good light. But we also have things that live in our hearts that are going to be exposed because we're made for love. And that means we have to bring all of it to God. What that means is that our prayer, when we talk to God, our prayer has to be honest. That we have to come before the Lord as we are, not to be seen by God in a good light, but actually to step into the light and say, God, this is the broken part of my heart. This is the dark part of that. Here's what's true about me, that even if I don't want it to be true, God, this is me. That's why we go to confession too. We have to be willing to let go of what shouldn't be there. That's another word for that, letting go of what shouldn't be there. It's called repentance. What I need to do, we all need to do this, is when we recognize that broken part of our heart, when we recognize the dark parts of our heart, to be able to bring it to Jesus for help, to bring it to Jesus for forgiveness, to bring it to Jesus for healing. Because why? Because that day is coming. What does Malachi say? That day is coming, and the day is going to burn up what shouldn't be there. The day is going to burn up what shouldn't be there. If you are familiar with the story of the Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien writes this whole story about in Middle-earth, there is this one ring to rule them all. That one ring is a symbol in Tolkien's world of the corruptive power of sin. And so there is a ring bearer who's like a Christ figure, Frodo, right? So Frodo's mission is to take that ring, the ring that's the corruptive power of sin, and bring it to the fires of Mount Doom. The place that the sin was forged, the ring was forged, he's got to throw it into the fires of Mount Doom, because that's the only place that the ring and the power of the ring can be destroyed. So you have the ring, power of sin, Frodo, that Christ figure who's going to carry the sin of the world, and you have this mission to bring it to Mount Doom and destroy evil. But if you know the story, you know that there's another character, his name's Gollum. And Gollum's been captivated by the ring. And the fires that were meant to destroy the ring, Gollum can't let go of the ring. And so instead of letting go of the ring and letting the fires destroy the ring and becoming free, what he does is he grasps that ring as he falls into the fires of Mount Doom. And what was meant to burn up the sin actually ends up burning up the sinner. If we're unwilling to let go of that, we recognize the dark part of our hearts, and we're unwilling to let go of the thing that's crushing us and enslaving us, what was meant to free us actually ends up destroying us. That's what's happening. The day is coming. The Lord is coming. Love is coming. The light is coming into the world. And if we don't let go, what was meant to destroy, what's destroying us, will ultimately be our end. That day that Malachi describes, there's a term for it in Christianity. It's called the Last Judgment. You might know this, that there are two judgments. There's the particular judgment and the last judgment. The particular judgment is when we die. When we die, we immediately are judged. What I mean by that is when we die, we immediately get what we've chosen. Like with our choices in life, we either choose God or we choose not God. And when we die, we get what we've chosen. You know, I think this is fascinating. Up until Jesus, people could choose not God. They could choose hell, and they would get hell. They couldn't choose heaven. They couldn't choose Jesus, because Jesus had to unlock the gates of heaven. Jesus had to give us his grace so that we could actually choose heaven. And now, when we die, we actually get what we've chosen. If we want not God, God allows us to have not God. And also because of what Jesus has done for us, if we want God, we get God through Jesus. That's the particular judgment. We either get heaven or hell. Maybe some of us through via purgatory, but still, either get heaven or hell. The last judgment, this is the confusion. Some people think the last judgment is like, what, you get a retrial? Is this like a second chance? It's not. You're not rejudged. It's not like one of those things you're like, I had a bad lawyer, give me an appeal. That's not what's happening. What it is the last judgment is the end of the story. The last judgment, when the day comes that Malachi is talking about, when Jesus shows up, when the light of the world comes into this world, what that means is that the story is written, that the history is complete. And the Catechism says it like this. It says, on that day, at the last judgment, when the story is written, we will know the consequences of each of our choices to their furthest extent. That means that the real impact our sins, even our private sins, had on this world, we will know the full extent, the furthest extent that our sins had on the people around us and the people for generations. But we also will know the furthest extent of every even attempt for good, every even attempt to stand in the light. We will know the furthest consequences of every one of those choices. But the Catechism goes on to say, it says this, in the presence of Christ, who is truth itself, the truth of each man's relationship with God will be laid bare. Okay, once again, at the end of the story, last judgment, in the presence of Christ, who is truth itself, the truth of each person's relationship with God will be laid bare. What that means is, in that moment, in that day, on the day, we will be fully known. We'll be fully known to God, even though we already are. We'll be fully known to ourselves. And we'll actually be fully known to each other. That in heaven, you will know everything about me. Everything. You will know my entire story. Every one of my sins you will know. Every act of virtue you will know. And I will know everything about you. The truth of our relationship with God will be fully revealed. Now, that might, in this moment, fill some of us with fear, which makes sense. I totally understand. Because we want to be seen in a good light. But here's the thing. This is good. It's not just good to be fully known. It's actually necessary. Because to be fully known like that, you have to know this. To be fully known like that, there's no pride and there's no shame. In heaven, to be fully known, there's no pride and there's no shame. No pride, why? Because all of the good you've ever done, like things you might take pride in, all the amazing things you might have been part of, we will know how much good in us came from other people. We'll know how much of the good we did actually came from someone else's patience, or because someone else treated us well, or how much someone else sacrificed for us, how much someone else cared for us. We will know the fullest extent to how much God cared for us. How many times God preserved us when we might have thought, oh, this was all me. Like, no, that was a lot of grace. We have no idea right now how many times in a single day the Lord is preserving us from a catastrophic fall. But we'll know then. And that's why there will be no pride. Because we will know the whole truth. We will stand in the light, and all we will have is just gratitude. There'll be no pride. There's also no shame. And this is the thing. I think some of us were like, if all my wounds are known, if all my weaknesses are known, if all my embarrassments, all my sins are known, if all of the things that I don't want to be seen, all the things about me that are truth that I don't want to be known, I just want to be seen in a good light. What happens then? What happens when all is seen, all is known in the light? Well, I'll tell you this, there's no shame. Why? Because if that day comes, you'll be in heaven. And what being in heaven means is that all of it, if you're in heaven, that means all of it has been submitted and surrendered to the mercy and grace of Jesus. And so everything, our weaknesses, our sins, our wounds, once surrendered, they're no longer signs of weakness. They're no longer signs of shame. They're testimonies. They actually bear witness, and they bear a witness that will for all eternity point to God's goodness. That your wounds, in fact, redeemed, submitted to the Lord, will point to God's grace, point to God's mercy. That even your wounds in heaven will highlight the love of God. They'll highlight the power of God. They'll highlight the victory of Jesus. There's one of my favorite books of all time is a book by C.S. Lewis called The Great Divorce. And The Great Divorce, the premise is this, is that there's these people, they're dead, and they're living in the Great Town. The Great Town is either purgatory or it's heaven, or it's hell. But the people in the Great Town have an opportunity to choose heaven. So it's not actually theologically accurate, but it's a great story. So here's Lewis and a bunch of other ghosts who go to the plains of heaven. And these saints and angels come down from heaven to meet them and to bring them to heaven because God does not want to give up on any one of his people. That's what he's saying. All of them say no. They have heaven within view, and they're invited to enter into joy, and they're invited to let go of what's holding them back, and they just won't do it, except for one person. There's one man, he's a ghost, right? But on his shoulder, there's a little lizard, and there's an angel of light, of fire, of beauty, and power who comes to meet this man and to convince him, just let go of the lizard, let the lizard die, and come to me, enter into joy, enter into heaven, enter into life. The lizard, Lewis describes, it represents lust in this man's life that just has this hold on the man. And every so often the man wants to say yes to heaven, but the lizard whispers into his ear and says, like, no, if you just, I promise, I know in the past I've gone too far, but I'll be quiet from now on. Just let's go back to the Great Town. We don't belong here. We don't belong in the light. We don't belong in heaven. The angel says, let me kill it. The guy says, well, if you kill it, then I'll be destroyed. He says, no, you won't. Let me kill the lizard, not you. And finally, the man breaks down under this slavery to this lust in his life, to this sin in his life, to this lizard, and he finally just cries out. He says, God, help me, please, just kill it. God, help me. He prays to God. The angel, Lewis describes it, the angel reaches out his fiery hand, grabs the lizard off the man's shoulder, and the man falls to the ground. The angel breaks the lizard's back, throws it to the ground. The man falls down as if he's dead. The lizard's thrown on the ground as if it's dead. But then what happens is the man begins to transform. And the way Lewis describes this is the power of redemption. What sin does is it makes us a ghost of ourselves. What grace does is it makes us into the beings God has created us and redeemed us to be. The man just begins growing. He becomes solid, right? He was a ghost. Now he says he became almost as large, almost as beautiful, almost as powerful as the angel standing there. Meanwhile, the lizard that Lewis thought had died actually was still moving around, but it wasn't just moving around. It was growing, it was transforming, it was becoming something else. And Lewis describes seeing this lizard being transformed from this pitiful thing into a massive, powerful stallion, beautiful horse. What had enslaved the man surrendered to God's grace, was transformed. And it said that the horse and the master, the rider, walked to each other and breathed into each other's nostrils. And the man clapped the horse on the neck, jumped on its back, and then shot off for heaven. And he said, as a line, he says, there was riding if you like, and it's one of those British ways of saying, he was going fast. What was this man's downfall? What was this man's slavery? Because of God's grace, became this man's glory because of Jesus. This is all of us. When we allow ourselves to be seen, not in a good light, but as we are. When we allow ourselves to be known, not in a good light, but as we are, we can be transformed. Why? Because to be fully known is necessary. Remember, we need to be known if we're going to be more than admired. We need to be known if we're going to be loved. And that means we need to be known fully if we're going to be fully loved. And this is the last thing. That can start now. Heaven can start now. Heaven is love. God is love. Not admiration, not being seen in a good light, but being known and being loved. We can start now. We can start literally at this moment in your prayer. Then in your prayer right now, in the rest of this Mass, to be able to say, okay, God, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to come to you as I am. The dark parts of my heart, the bright parts of my heart, all of my heart. This can start now. Heaven can start now. Love can start now. Confession. What happens in confession? We surrender the wounds, right? We surrender the embarrassments. We surrender the weaknesses. We surrender the sins, and we let Jesus transform them. You can, if you want, let Jesus transform you, and that can happen now. So would you rather be admired or loved? Would you rather be seen in a good light? Or would you rather have something more? Would you rather have something better? to step into the light and to be seen as you are, to be known as you are, and to be loved, not in a good light, but in the light, to be loved as you are.